Okay. Ever wondered how a luxury hotel can also be a champion of sustainability? We pulled up a chair with Vinesh Gupta, the general manager of the Den Bengaluru, to get the inside scoop. From electric kitchens to zero discharge dreams, we explore the eco friendly heart of this millennial luxury hotspot. Welcome to Leader Story, Vinesh. How have you been?
Very well, Neha. Great talking to you, and a great preamble, I will say, that you started off with.
Thank you so much. Okay, my
Okay.
first question to you is sustainability is a big deal at the Den. How does this actually feel for a guest?
To answer very directly, I'll tell you about. I can mention that there are a lot of corporates, there are a lot of,
Mhm.
I would say, companies who ask us not to use any plastic bottles for water.
Okay.
So, as a matter of fact, we were one of the very first few, I would say, hotels who adopted their own water bottling. And that was
Okay.
during the pandemic, actually. When the pandemic was on, it was in fact an initiative which we wanted to start before pandemic, but then pandemic came in between, and our water bottling plant is existent from that time. So we are one of the first adopters of creating your own water in the hotel, so that the plastic waste is minimized. I cannot say that we can always be plastic free. So that goes a long way when it talks about sustainability. The second thing is chemicals. So, what type of chemicals do you use? Be it as simple as your pesticides to your cleaning chemicals to your laundry chemicals to everything. So, you have a choice today. Either you pay slightly more and use eco-friendly, biodegradable chemicals, or you use the traditional chemicals. you know
Okay.
we as a hotel have decided to do away with any of those hard chemicals which can affect the environment. And this is something which, if you ask me, in a lot of RFPs, international RFPs, these questions do arise, that what chemicals do you use? Because people are very cognizant of the fact that unless and until you're using biodegradable organic chemicals or materials, it can also have a bad impact on your health.
Correct. Coming to our next question.
Yes,
Your
please.
kitchen's mostly electric. That's impressive.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
what's the thinking behind this, and what was it a tricky switch to make?
Okay. The first part of the question, what was the thought process behind doing electric kitchen? If you see internationally, and if you look at a quality kitchen today, anywhere, industrial kitchens, mostly they are electric. So when the designers designed the kitchen way back 7 or 8 years back, and when we're looking at the best of the best equipment, everything, I mean, you have much more options in electric kitchens. And all the big companies, they are happy to do the electric ranges. They may see electricity was not very suitable for Indian cuisine per se in the beginning, because it's not the suitability, it is our mindset of our cooks and chefs, because they always used the traditional ways of cooking.
Right.
We also had very clear cut thought in mind that we didn't want to use fossil fuel or reduce as much as possible when it comes to fossil fuel. We wanted to make it a much more cleaner environment, much more soot free, and much more, I would say, carbon free environment, even in the kitchen. Because when the LPG is burnt, or CNG is burnt, or PNG is burnt, obviously there is carbon, there is a lot of
Yes.
emissions, which
Mm.
though are entrapped in your kitchen hood, in the exhaust hood,
Mm.
but that somewhere still remains in the system.
Correct.
So our thought was to see how modern we can be, and that's where we said, okay, the most of the kitchen, except for the show kitchen at the lobby level, would be all electric.
Okay.
So when we did that, well, it was not an easy shift.
Mm.
I still recall in 2017 when we were doing trials and opening up the hotel. Most of the cooks would not accept it. I had
Okay.
halwais who would join and the next day they will leave. They say, "How do you expect us to cook it on the electric equipment?"
Hmm.
So we would try to explain them. At the end of the day, you know, it is the technique. You're using the same, and then they would say, which I understand because they're so used to. Nahi sir, hame to kadhai chahiye.
Ah,
And we need iron, we need brass, we need this, we need that. All fine, but at the end of the day, they're also carcinogenic. That aluminium is banned. The tinning is not allowed. You cannot use tin in the brass kadhais and all. I mean, there's so many metals which can be very harmful to health, and that's one of the reason why we prefer to use only stainless steel, because that's one of the most inert metals.
okay. Thank you for answering that question. Now, uh, the union budget is out, right? So, like, what things it has shaken up for the hotels in Bangalore or rest of India?
It's a very interesting union budget. You really need to go with a fine comb to find out what is there for you, but it's there. There's something or the other for everybody. The first thing first, if you see, the disposable incomes would be increased.
Hmm.
The general euphoria that, oh, okay, the income tax limits have been changed, revised, and XYZ actually helps the spending. I do not know whether the end result to a human being would be the same or not. Yes, at I would say a certain set of people who fall under X amount of salary slabs, they would definitely benefit a lot, and they would be spending the money in various forms, be it restaurants, be it hotels, be it different places. And for me, what's more important is that people spend money in my place. So that's a direct correlation.
Hmm.
Second is, if you see, government has identified various tourist circuits, be it religious, be it touristic, be it others, where they are wanting to really invest and work on it. You can see a very interesting situation. About a year back, when Mr. Modi had posted the pictures of Lakshadweep, you remember
Yes.
what a controversy or what a situation.
Hmm.
Now, I
Yes.
only asked one thing to a lot of people who know me. I said, what wrong did the Prime Minister do by saying that let's promote our own place?
Correct.
He did not say don't go out.
Ah,
He only said let's promote.
yes.
And suddenly the whole thing came up that we are anti Maldives. And imagine, it is just, can you imagine it was just one real picture, whatever you say, or one thing to promote one place. The tourism of another country dropped dramatically, that they had to take corrective measures to come over and
Hmm.
ask for tourism. Now, that is what I would say is the mood of the people. So, the general mood in the budget is very positive, because people feel that there's a lot more money which will be in the hands of people to spend, which will come at the end of the day to certain places like hotels and restaurants. Second part, as I said, a development of tourism spots, be it religious, be it otherwise, which is the focus of the budget, will affect the business overall. Not for Bangalore, I'm talking about pan India.
Okay. Last round, rapid fire round. So, first question, dream getaway.
Difficult one. Current Goa.
Okay. Next, uh, if the den had a personality, what would it be like?
A very carefree millennial slash Gen Z. If I would close my eyes and think, it would be like a boy or a girl wearing Louis Vuitton flip flops, shades of Armani,
Mm-hmm.
wearing probably the best of Dolce Gabbanas, and a very carefree attitude, but
Mm-hmm.
knowing what they want.
Okay. Craziest guest request you have ever gotten?
I would not tell you the craziest guest request. That will not be very parliamentary to tell you.
Okay.
But okay, I'll tell you a very unusual guest request. I was working in the Seychelles, and the location was very interesting. It was a volcanic, so to say, a mountain flowing into the sea.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a river which used to go through, let's say, the water, the tributary of a river which used to go through and meet the sea. And there was a bridge joining the two sides. So once there was a guest who was walking and standing out there, and he said, I want to have my breakfast right in the middle of that tributary where it joined the sea. So my chef, yes, we'll do it. So he comes running to me. He says, I've sold the breakfast there. I said, very nice. Now what do I do? He says, I don't know. He said, the guest will be sitting right in the center and will be serving the breakfast. So overnight, 6 carpenters had to make a pontoon, a platform basically, on which the guest would sit down. And there were 2 small plastic, dinghy boats, as we call dinghies, the boats. One
Okay.
used to transfer the guests, the other one was the staff carrying the stuff and going there. And I sold the most expensive papaya in my life ever.
How much was that for?
The guest's breakfast was 1 papaya, and the cost of the breakfast was 1,000 euros. So that's the craziest thing I have ever done. But again, at the same time, it has a cost. Well, if you ask me, the craziest request, whenever we are on the phone, I'll tell you. I was just telling Poonam some time back. I said, crazy requests can be very, very crazy, but I would not talk about it. And that was in India.
Okay. So maybe for later.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. Besides the fancy stuff, what makes a stay in Den truly special?
Well, we read the heart of our customer.
Okay. All right. Thank you so very much, Vinesh, for this interview. And it was lovely talking to you.
Same here, Neha. Do you travel to Bangalore?
No, I never had such plans, but surely whenever I'm going to visit, please do meet me.
Hey, you have to, and you have to come and see what the Den is all about. Because Den is just not a hotel. If it was a hotel, it would be very, very boring. It's more of a concept.
Okay, surely
So,
I'm going to visit that place.
thank you.
When I check the pictures, it looks impressive.
It is, and in fact, I must say, pictures do not do the justice.
True.
Usually, pictures are much better than the product, but out here, it's the other way around. The product is much better than the
Than the
pictures.
pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you so very much and have a lovely day.
Thanks. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye.